On the wing, Porter taking it.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Pick and Roll Report. Today we're going to be talking about the matchup between the Celtics and the Mavericks this NBA Finals. What is at stake for each of these players? And of course by these players I mean the big two of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, as well as Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Starting with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, their team has had ample opportunity to do something in the finals, but they fell short years ago against the Warriors. They only won 2 games after previously beating the Heat in the conference finals that year. They also defeated the Bucks and the Nets that same year. But then the next year, after facing the Hawks in the opening round, they move on. They move on in 7 against the Sixers, but in the conference finals couldn't get it done against the Heat, as we all know. This ended up sending the Heat to the finals against the Denver Nuggets. The Heat were an 8 seed at that time as well, so that was a very surprising upset. But this year they've had a cakewalk through the playoffs. They first beat the number 8 seed Miami Heat 4-1. They lost their second game, and everything looked pretty much easy from there. We thought the Heat might upset them to begin with if Jimmy was healthy, but injuries plagued them, and then they moved on to play the number 4 seed Cavaliers, who they beat 4-1 while also losing Game 2. I guess they have a weakness for Game 2 this postseason. And then that, in turn, made them face the Pacers, which, to give the Pacers credit, all of the games were close. Even though Tyrese had injuries and there were other injuries, they really played better than I expected them to, but it didn't matter, and the Celtics went to the finals, so they're going to be facing the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Luka has much less at stake for him, in my opinion. He's only 25 years old, and Tatum is 26, but he's been to the finals before, and he's consistently been a deep postseason playoff performer, or at least his team has been. They've gone on those deep playoff runs. Let's talk about the depth. The Celtics, of course, have Kristaps Porzingis, who's going to be coming back from an injury during Game 1. We'll have to see how effective he is and how well they do in reincorporating him into the lineup. It'll also be an interesting storyline because he used to be on the Mavericks, of course, and he was kind of disgruntled there. So it'll be curious to see if he has a monster performance against them, if he has some kind of grudge, if he does worse against them because of that. But let's also talk about of course, Jrue Holiday that the Celtics acquired. He's a huge piece for them. Great defensively, still proficient offensively, even though he's an older guy. That's a lot of defensive depth there. Of course, Tatum and Brown are good defenders as well. At least they have been all postseason. The depth for the Mavericks is a little bit lacking compared to the Celtics, especially because of their recently acquired acquisitions. But their main pieces, I'm talking about Kyrie and Luka, they're basically the top 3 players in the series. I would put Luka first, Tatum second, and then it would be a toss-up between Kyrie and Brown, but I would probably put Brown in front of Kyrie. Possibly. Luka Doncic this season has been averaging 28.8 points per game, 9.6 rebounds per game, and 8.8 assists, with 1.6 steals and 0.5 blocks. Let's talk about Luka Doncic. In the last few years, in his first playoff series to be exact, he lost to the Clippers in 6, and then the year after that, he also lost to the Clippers in an extra game in 7. And then after that, in 2022, he had a 4-2 series win against the Jazz. 4-3 against the Suns in the conference semifinals, and then they lost in 5 to the Warriors in the conference finals. This year, though, of course, because in between 2022 and 2024 they were out of the play-in, and there was the whole controversy because of their acquisition of Kyrie. But since he's meshed very well with the team, he's made the right sacrifices, as Mark Cuban has told everyone. And this season they have beat the Clippers in 6. They beat the Thunder in 6, which was very impressive. The Thunder are an extremely deep team, a very young team. Even though they lack a lot of playoff experience, I think they definitely had the pieces to be able to beat Dallas. So for the Mavericks to overcome them was very impressive. And then afterwards, they played the red-hot Minnesota Timberwolves, as we all know. Just defeated the defending champion Denver Nuggets in 7 games. And they managed to beat that team in 5, which was very impressive as well because of their length and their size and their defensive ability, especially the offensive prowess of Anthony Edwards and his momentum throughout the postseason. For them to squash them like that makes me think that Boston's going to have a tough time. With that being said, let's look at Jason Tatum and Luka Doncic. And I have officially predicted that the Dallas Mavericks are going to beat the Boston Celtics in 7 games. It's not going to be as close as everyone thinks it is. Boston has been ready for years, and even though we all think they're not going to be able to overcome the hump or get over the hump and finally win the finals, this is not a non-deep team in the Dallas Mavericks. They will burn you on the offensive end. Kyrie and Luka's ball handling has been sufficient all season, and the shooting has been knocked down when it needs to be. All the clutch stats are there. Luka does not take kindly to fans in the stands saying anything to him, so if that happens in Boston, rest assured he will use it as motivation. In 7 games, Dallas Mavericks will beat the Boston Celtics to win the NBA Finals. Who do you think is going to win the Finals, and in how many games? Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, see you in the next video. Bye-bye.